Great. So I'd like to say good morning. My name is Adele Imrie, and I'm the chair of the board of Toronto Community Housing Corporation. Today's meeting is a virtual meeting, and I would like to thank everyone for accommodating our change. Given the weather, we thought that this was the most convenient and certainly the safest for our board members and for the public. So thank you very much. I know that the change was made late yesterday. So I would also like to say I'm sorry for the delay in starting the public session. Our in-camera session, we had a very good discussion, but it went over time. So I would also like to thank you for your patience. So I would like to start today with our land acknowledgement, and it's an acknowledgement that the land we are all on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. We also acknowledge all treaty peoples, including those who came here as settlers, as migrants, either in this generation or in generations past, and those of us who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. We pay tribute to those ancestors of African origin and descent. And on the heels of our African ancestral acknowledgement, I think it's very fitting that we recognize the start of Black History Month in Canada. It began on February the 1st. And at Toronto Community Housing, nearly 42% of tenants identify as Black, making up the largest ethnic group in our communities. As a result, Black History Month is a very important time for us. The Centre for Advancing the Interests of Black People and the Black Staff Caucus have collaborated on an exciting program of learning and discussion opportunities, as well as the City of Toronto has a wide range of opportunities to be participated in this month. Of note, in the city's work to celebrate Black History Month, I'm very happy to say that our colleague, Debbie Douglas, and I'm very sorry to say that the timing is very poor. She was here and had to leave for half an hour to present at another meeting, but Debbie has been featured in the TTC in their new Black History Month campaign, City of Belonging, which celebrates Black community builders in Toronto. Director Douglas's long history of working in the immigrant and refugee rights, racial justice, and social equity earned her a place as one of TTC's 6 honorees this month. I will, when she rejoins, I will make this comment again, but I'd like to say congratulations to Debbie. And on behalf of the board, I would like to say that we always enjoy acknowledging Debbie's many accomplishments and very well-deserved honors at the board. So I'd like to say congratulations. There have been a number of Toronto-based Black artists that have created some incredible art to celebrate these community builders. And Debbie is included in that, and their creations can be found on specially wrapped TTC buses in select stations throughout February. So I hope you have the opportunity to see the art. And I encourage everyone to take the time to participate in Black History Month. It's a chance to learn something, to connect with new people. And if you aren't a member of the Black community, it's a chance to broaden your perspective on history and culture in Canada. So I would encourage everyone to participate. I would also like to note that there have been a number of changes on the board since we last met, and I'd like to share those with you today. I'd like to note that John Campbell is currently on a leave of absence from the board, during which we wish him all the best, and we look forward to his return. We are also pleased to see the reappointment of 2 members of the board, Councillor Parthy Candeval, representing Scarborough Southwest, and Councillor Anthony Peruzza, who's representing Humber River, Black Creek. And lastly, I am happy to welcome the newest member to the board, Councillor Gordon Perks, representing Parkdale High Park. Councillor Parks is no stranger to the conversation about housing in Toronto, given his role as chair of the Planning and Housing Committee and vice chair of the Budget Committee. Councillor Parks will be a valuable member of the board, and we certainly all look forward to working with him. As part of the agenda today, Councillor Perks meeting, we will be considering a report to appoint Councillor Perks to our Governance, Human Resources and Communications Committee. So I would like to thank you, Gord, for your support of TCHC. And as I mentioned, we're really looking forward to working with you. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Adele. I'm really looking forward to working with you all.
So we're going to move into the meeting, and I will turn to the first item, the agenda. And I would like to ask if there are any additions or deletions to today's agenda as presented. Okay, hearing none, I would like to ask if any if any members have any conflict of interest as it relates to the agenda as it's presented today. Okay, hearing none, I would like to ask if any members have any items that they would like pulled for further discussion, given that we will be holding items 11 and 12 because they are presentations. There's also a deputation on item 11. We have deputations for items 7, 8, 13, 15A, and 15B. So I would ask if any members would like to pull any other items. Okay.
Adele, it's Parthy. If I could hold 12, if it hasn't been held.
12 is a presentation, so it has been held.
Okay, great.
Can we hold 15A, please?
15A actually has a deputation, so it's been held. Anything else? Okay, I would just like to hold 5 and item number 14. So can I ask for a motion to approve the agenda with the exclusion of 5, 7, 8, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15A, 15B, and that's it. Nick, thank you. Benita, thank you. All in favor? Okay, and I would like to we'll move to item number 5 first. And I just wanted some to clarify the action item number 3. And I think it's addressed as a demand repair maintenance item, but it's what the question from the board was actually related to a COXX line reconciliation. And we had a cross-divisional committee was to provide a full reconciliation of the COXX line, including the root causes and measures to address the budget tracking and procurement control failures that led to the overspend to the budget in COXX up to 2023. Now, I understand that that will include the demand general repair program, that's part of that line. But it's not limited to that line. And I think that that's where the confusion is in the action item. And the analysis should also address the extent to which the reduction in COXX spend in 2024 represents actual cost savings versus a deferral of work, which I think is in the action item. So I just wanted to clarify that.
We'll amend the action item to reflect that.
Perfect. Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the action item list as presented? Or I guess that's just information, so to receive it. as amended. Thank
Correct.
you, Naram. Thank you, Nick. All in favor? Perfect. So we will move to item number 7, which is the committee appointment of the new director, Councillor Perks, to the GCHRC committee. And I understand that we have Catherine Wilkinson, who would like to depute. Welcome, Catherine.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, and I hope everybody's staying warm. I appreciate all the snow removal by the city. Yeah, so you know what? I just wanted to comment that I've always supported having city councillors on this board. The wealth of knowledge and expertise they bring to this table really helps to keep this board apprised of decisions being made or under consideration at the city. And that helps to keep the board on track and to provide guidance where issues arising may warrant further discussion with the shareholder. And I also want to welcome Councillor Perks to the board. I know that his track record and contributions as a city councillor speak for themselves, and I am confident that both Toronto Community Housing and our tenants will be well served. When City Council appointed the board members in December, it indicated Councillor Gord Perks is also the mayor's designate, which carries additional weight and responsibility. There's no mention of this in his bio on the website or in this report. The language in the report is somewhat generic, indicating that City Council appointed one new councillor director to replace an unnamed outgoing councillor director. City councillors appointed to this board have never really been identified as councillor directors. As elected city officials, they're here for a specific period of time. The unidentified outgoing, councillor referenced in this report was, of course, Councillor Paula Fletcher, who was also the mayor's designate and who dedicated a significant number of years as a director, serving on this board multiple terms. So going forward, I'd just like to suggest when we're referencing directors in reports to the board as a courtesy, I would like to suggest we identify them by name. Thank you.
Gord, would you like to say anything?
Well, thank you for the deputation. I guess the only thing I'd like to say is I don't think there's any universe in which I fill Paula's shoes, but I will do my best.
And we will acknowledge Paula. And Catherine, I think you've raised some important points, and I'm sure that they will be taken into consideration by management. I'm not actually sure who prepared. I guess it's Dara. I will address these comments to you, and we certainly, as civilian board members and our tenant board members, we certainly respect the perspective that our councillor board members bring to this board and to TCHC. It's an invaluable perspective, and it's important that it is heard. So thank you very much, Catherine.
Thank you.
And we do, again, I'd like to say welcome to you, Gord, and I hope you enjoy working on GCHRC. It's a very important committee for the board. So could I have a motion to approve the appointment? Okay, Vanita, thank you. Brian, seconder, thank you. All in favor? Good luck, Gord. Enjoy. So we will move on to item number 8, which is our corporate realignment. And I'll turn that over to Sean. We have 2 deputants. First, Sean, did you want to make any comments, or can we hear from our deputants first?
No, to the chair, happy to hear from the deputants.
Okay, so Catherine, I will turn over to you again.
All righty, thank you so much. Yeah, I think all of us at this table and online, we are aware that one of the greatest challenges of this corporation has been not only to recruit, but to retain top talent in our C-suite. There were 9 members on the executive leadership team, the ELT, in 2024, and this realignment reduces that to 7 members. And that means transferring significant areas of responsibility onto two specific members. First, moving strategic planning and communications into people and culture division. There's no indication on the status of the senior management previously responsible for this area. There was great fanfare when Paula Knight, our former VP of Strategic Planning, left the company. Ada Wong was appointed as acting VP. Ada also recently left the company. The second area is facilities management and capital planning, moving into the finance area. All of these are critical areas of responsibility for this corporation. Alan Murray was Vice President, Facilities Management for 10 years with a wealth of institutional knowledge. Left Toronto Community Housing late last year. We did not publicly acknowledge his contributions and years of service, or that he even left the company. Daisy Wong has now been appointed as acting VP in the interim. Louisa Andrews, VP IT Services for 7 years, recently left the company. Again, we did not acknowledge her contributions or years of service, or that she left the company, nor who will be supporting the IT services in the interim. Louisa was responsible for implementing the Homes project. For some of the new board members who are not aware of this project, it was a multi-year enterprise-wide transformational project within a board-approved budget of $55.3 million. Historically, Toronto Community Housing did not have a robust IT department and C-suite in-house expertise. The Homes business systems replaced end-of-life technology, automating many functions, reducing staff workload, and improved efficiencies across the portfolio, resulting in the first ever Toronto Housing fully integrated housing management system. It was a significant accomplishment. Backup storage of Toronto Community Housing systems has been secured off-site. More recently, the Auditor General's work plan included a cybersecurity audit of both Toronto Community Housing and Toronto Seniors Housing to strengthen controls and mitigate the risk of cyber threats. We need to keep in mind, these changes in senior management may have a trickle-down effect. This uncertainty may impact employee morale, resulting in more departures, potentially creating risk and increased costs to outsource consultants where the level of expertise is no longer available in-house. Within this environment, it is difficult, if not impossible, to implement succession planning when significant institutional knowledge is lost. There are no organization charts attached that visually demonstrate how this realignment of areas will fit within the organization and the staff positions that will support them. There is no indication of the financial impact to the operating budget. The realignment resulted in the loss of key senior executives, with somewhere in the vicinity of $700,000 or more in salaries. While I understand that change is necessary, the timing, the transparency, managing staff departures, and how we present that change to our employees and stakeholders impacts this company's reputation. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Catherine. And Sean, before you make any comments, we have Kathy Birch is our second deputant. Is Kathy? I don't see her.
I'm here.
Oh, you are. Okay. Oh, thank you. Sorry, I didn't see your tile. Thank you, Kathy.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Kathy Birch. I'm chair of the RPATH committee, and we work very close with multiple divisions within TCHC on accessibility issues. I have serious concerns for this realignment. I'm concerned that we will be compromising quality of services, and let me give you an example. For capital planning moving to finance, it almost seems reasonable because it's about money, but it's also about FM being able to move projects effectively and efficiently. And let me give you an example. If a project is in design and engineering and the monies are allocated for the project and they go to the city for their permits, and all of a sudden zoning says that they want an arborist report because one tree is a half an inch too big in diameter. It causes a delay in the project moving forward. And that could delay the project into the next year's budget. So now you have to be able to move that money into another project so that the spend happens within the year. And that makes it very difficult. When capital planning was within FM, they understand that fluidity you need. Is finance going to be able to go with the flow and understand that and get the approvals in a timely manner? I don't think so. That's not usually their specialty in finance. And nor is it their specialty to understand construction. It's just like the craziness that goes on in this company about change orders. They are a regular necessity in construction. It's just a fact. Sometimes stuff shows up in walls that nobody had any drawings on or whatever, right? And you have to do the change orders, or you need to move something to a different project. We hire these people because it's their specialty. And then we have people like in finance who don't deal with that stuff, and they're going to be questioning, why is this happening, when they don't have the construction knowledge. So I have very serious concerns about how we're going to achieve getting our spends done and getting our projects moving going forward. It's not their expertise. Comms is another huge division, and it's always had their own VP because it does have a specific skill set. And until Paula Knight came and then Ada Wong came along, it was ineffective, it was inefficient, and had no quality at all. And no disrespect to Barbara Schulman, who it's moving to, but it's a full-time job all on its own. And you want to stretch her not only to just handle HR, but comms and strategic planning too. We are already hemorrhaging good management, and you want to stretch these people beyond reason. The cost will be quality of services to tenants, because it does have a trickle-down effect when management is stretched too far. The sanity of our employees to the point that they go elsewhere because they're overloaded, they're overstretched, all to save executive salaries. Ultimately, we're going to have a problem with quality of service, not because they can't do the jobs, just because they're stretched too far. I know that this is a done deal, people. I know the moves have already started, but are they the right moves? Consistency in this corporation. Every time there's a new lead in this corporation, a new CEO, a new senior management, it delays things by huge amounts of time. Staff become unstable. They don't know, they're looking over their back. They don't know if their jobs are going to be there tomorrow. They could be gone for no reason. We have the good staff that go, this isn't worth all of this headache. I have concerns. They're real. I'm in this with you, but I think we need to be very aware of this realignment. I'm not convinced that it's a good realignment. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Sean, do you have any comments?
Sure. To the chair, yeah, thanks very much, and I appreciate the comments from the deputants as well. I will share that these changes are being made in departments that we expect will largely be seamless and not affect tenants directly. These are functions that are providing supporting activities to the organization, and I'm happy to acknowledge publicly the contributions of a few of the folks that have left the organization. So certainly pleased with the work and efforts of everyone that's been mentioned. And I also want to just share too that that's been shared with staff throughout the organization. So there's been communications from myself and from the organization about the changes, why we're making the changes, and an appreciation of folks that have contributed to the organization for so long. And then just one small thing I want to clarify. I heard it mentioned a couple of times that facilities management had been moved. That's actually not the case. So there's a component of facilities management, which is capital planning and budgeting, which has been severed off and is no longer sort of reporting up through facilities management. Has now been moved over to finance. And I'll also add that through this year's budget process, we've added resources in each of these areas, in strategy and communications, in IT, in cybersecurity, and in our capital budgeting function as well. So these are all areas that we're actually investing in and strengthening as we move forward with this realignment. And I understand that change is unsettling. I certainly understand that. And we've had lots of conversations with the teams in each of these areas to help understand why the changes are being made. And I would let board members know that that's been received relatively well throughout the corporation thus far.
The only thing I would like to add is that the board is very supportive of Sean's leadership and the decisions that he is making here. Does anyone else have any comments on item number 8, the corporate realignment?
I don't have any comments, but I do agree with you, Adele. Very confident in Sean's abilities too.
Thank you, Marcel. O'Brien, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I mean, I think all these changes go to support our focus on the strategic plan that we're working on, and that's what we want to accomplish. And the changes in management, I believe, go to reinforce our ability to follow through on our strat plan and look at the success factors in that as well. So I think we're very supportive of these changes. Realize that change always is challenging, but necessary.
Okay. Any other comments on this item? So I just want to reiterate our confidence in Sean's leadership and the ability to manage this change. So could I have a motion to receive this report? Benita, thank you. Brian, thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much. And thank you to the deputants. I would like to move on to item number 11, which is a presentation on the 25 to 29 strat plan. The board has spent a lot of time on this so far and look forward to the final version. And I'm going to turn this over to Sean.
Thanks very much. Through the chair, I'm gonna give a quick walkthrough of the presentation materials. So what you would have received in the board package, there's 3 items. There's the report that lays out what the goals of the strategic plan are. There is the detailed strategic plan document, which is intended to be published, and then there's a presentation that I'm going to walk through just now to share with everybody on the board.
Sean, sorry to interrupt, but before you get started, we do have a deputation on item 11.
Oh,
so
I'm
going to ask you, which would you prefer? Would you like to do your presentation first, or would you like us to hear from the deputant?
I believe general practice is to hear the deputations first, right?
Okay. So thank you. That's my error. So Miguel.
So let's take the document down until. Thank you.
Is Miguel in the meeting?
Yes.
Yes, we
Yes, we can hear
can.
you.
All right.
Please go
Wonderful.
ahead. We're on item number 11, the strat plan.
All right. Disclaimer. Me being here at this meeting is solely as an indigenous man that lives at 220 Oak, and TCHC is my landlord. I want to disclose also, I was not involved in the consultation process because I was removed from all the mailing communication because I'm no longer the tenant rep for 220 Oak. But the good news is I had a wonderful opportunity today to share my thoughts and ideas. Page number 8 says, vision, quality homes, healthy communities where people are proud to live, work, and play. I will add also the word where people are enjoying the right to sleep, because I've been expecting noises in this building since September 27, 2024. I circulated some pictures from 220 Oak Street to give you an idea of what I'm going through. I sent it to the care of Sonia, and I hope you guys take a look at it. Page 14, it says, we are seeing increasing vulnerabilities and more complex needs among our tenants, mental health challenges, violence, and antisocial behaviors. And we need to have everything under a community safety to support us. Well, look, the CSU program is under review. I believe a report back is long overdue. And last month, the Tenant Services Committee was canceled. I would like to add that at the last January 14 meeting of the TPS board, I had a chance to provide a deputation with regards to the CSU and how we can properly equip them when it comes to investigations of residential noises. Page 43 on the presentation, make better use of technology to improve service delivery, customer experience, and efficiency. So take heed of what I said. You need to provide with the tools of investigation to your CSU officers when it comes dealing with noise in the nighttime. And also, I would like to ask also that you guys start working collaboratively with 311 service to assist you with really complex noise complaints. I also suggested that the body-worn camera should be included as part of the equipment. Page number 5, regards accountability. We are accountable for actions that set responsibility for our performance and share results of our work in an open, honest, and transparent manner. I would like to see the TCHC comply with their RTA. Tenants have the right to quiet, reasonable enjoyment of the rental unit, and the landlord is under an obligation to provide this. If another tenant interferes with this right by causing a disturbance or by impairing the safety of other tenants, the landlord must take reasonable steps to end interference. So that is one of the wishes I want to see that as a part of a accountability program. Page 14, there is a critical shortage of supported housing. Exactly. That's what we need. Wraparound services 24/7 and personal support workers personal on duty 24/7. So here's a great opportunity to have that at 220 Oak, because this is an aging population. We require specific services, like, as I mentioned, personal support workers. And part of that plan was when we provided input on the tower renewal of 220 Oak. Page number 13. No, that's it. That's all the thoughts I have in regards your majestic plan for 2025 and onwards. Well, guys, the budget was approved, but we know that the next 4 years is going to be a challenge in terms of financing. All these ambitious plans have a dollar amount, but with the current state political in Ottawa, it's going to be difficult and tough. I wish you all the best luck. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So now, Sean, I'll turn it over to you. And sorry.
No problem. Yep. Thanks very much. So maybe we can just bring up the presentation document once again. And while we're doing that, I'll acknowledge that, yes, indeed, the budget was passed this week with the City Council, so that's wonderful news. Some of the items that you're going to hear me talk about as I run through the presentation here today represent pretty important investments that Toronto Community Housing is making, and we're really appreciative of the fact that the city is supporting us in a great many of those areas. We've added new expenditure dollars. We've added money to support addressing our maintenance backlog. We've added funds to support capital renewal, and we've added resources in a number of tenant-facing support areas as well. So really appreciative of the work that the city has done to help us. Looks like the presentation came up blank and now it's disappeared. So let's try one more time. Maybe Maybe I'll try.
Someone trying to put it up? I'm not sure. Not sure.
Yes,
who has-
someone is trying.
Okay, there we
How about
go.
if I do it? Okay, I got it.
Is that you, Sean? Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
so I'm just
okay.
going to take control.
Okay.
So I'm gonna walk us through the presentation material on the strategic plan. As I said, there's 3 documents. Most importantly, I'd say is the primary written out document that will be made public soon. Well, I guess it's made public with the publishing of this board material, but we have an entire communication plan around that as well.
So we've lost the sharing, Sean, if that's what you're expecting.
I hit resume. How's that? Nope, stopped. Something is blocking me. It says you're no
Sean,
longer
we
the
have
presenter.
Megan's. Megan's has got hers up
Okay.
now. We're seeing Megan's.
Great. That sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that's enough preamble. Let's get into it. So next page, just a subtitle. We're going to talk about where we start today. And then on to the next one, just a few things I want to highlight. The first one around rising demand for affordable housing. You know, it's an issue we hear about all the time. We always like to mention that there are 2 distinct housing crises happening in the city, right? There is the one that everyone talks about that gets media attention, which is generally around the cost of purchasing homes, but one that gets far less attention, perhaps in the public sphere, but gets lots of attention between us and between the city, is around the crisis of deeply affordable housing and the fact that not enough of that is available, either through social housing or any other format, and that's a real challenge that we all face right now. A couple of other ones I want to highlight here. The second one around aging infrastructure and maintenance. We know that we have a very aged housing stock. We know that it is the oldest social housing stock in Canada, and that we've inherited significant challenges with respect to how we maintain that housing stock. And of course, when the downloads happened of our housing stock, they didn't come with reserves necessary to properly maintain that housing. So we're facing decades of underinvestment into our housing stock. And then the last one I'll mention is, before we move on, is just the diverse and vulnerable tenant population. We are seeing a pretty significant increase in the acuity and levels of vulnerability across our tenant population, most specifically since the onset of the pandemic. And this should not be surprising. We've seen a significant rise in street homelessness throughout the city as well. There's just significant challenges that we're facing, whether those be access to primary health care or access to mental health supports, or rises in concerns around safety within our community. So happy to acknowledge that all of those are very, very real and big challenges that we're facing and that we're trying to address as we develop out the strategic plan going forward. So let's move ahead. So now we'll talk about a little bit about the approach. So we'll move ahead again. There's lots here, but all I really want to say is that we've been at this for a period of time. So in earnest since last summer, developing out what the strategic plan is going to be. And I don't want anyone to think that it's been an ivory tower exercise where we've gone away and sort of scribed this on our own. This has been a very inclusive process with lots of input from our tenants, our staff, our partners, and I'm going to just illustrate a few of those as we go through here. But the takeaway is that we've really developed this and heard from our communities as we pull together the strategic plan. So let's go on to the next page. And so we'll start with talking about stakeholder engagement. So let's go to the next one and I'll talk about what that exactly is. So here's what it looks like when we say working with our communities and stakeholder engagement. Over 1,000 tenants have been involved in contributing to the strategic plan in one way, shape, or form. So many of those are through our survey responses. So you can see on the slide, we've got our standard response. We have our youth survey that we've done, and we have our seniors survey that we've done as well. And then in a more detailed fashion, we've actually held workshops with a number of groups as well. The tenant community action tables, you often hear us refer to those as TCATs. Those are regional groups of tenant leaders from various buildings in our community, and they represent each of the 3 different regions. So I've visited a number of those groups, and it's often a gathering of 100 or more tenant reps from different areas across either the East, West, or Central region. Each one of those hosted a night dedicated to discussion around the strategic plan. Second, we've got our tenant advisory committee. So this is a group of 16 tenants that we've working in concert with the Housing Secretariat at the city, we have this group that we do more policy-focused assessment and engagement-focused assessment. So diving a little bit deeper than perhaps we do, for example, with the TCATs. And again, with this group, we held a detailed workshop around strategic planning as well. Our RPath committee, which is our accessibility committee, also had a workshop with this group, and there are items in the plan and in the budget that speak directly to accessibility, and then also a co-facilitated workshop with the TCHC's Center for Advancing the Interest of Black People, which was focused on anti-Black racism in order to ensure that that was properly a proper lens applied to the strategic plan as well. I'll move on to the next one. That's tenants. The next one then talks about other stakeholders. So we've got over 600 TCHC staff that have been involved. Certainly I was and other members of ELT, but so too were staff sort of up and down throughout the organization, frontline staff and supporting staff in all of our different departments. And they were engaged through a survey process that we went through, as well as detailed engagement workshops. And you can see a couple of photos of what that looks like and how we got detailed into that work. And then also external stakeholders. So we have lots of interviews with folks at the City of Toronto, both on the civil service side and amongst elected officials. And then 30 different partners and agencies that we work with, both accountability type organizations as well as supportive and service provider organizations that operate directly within our buildings. So that's generally the approach. Just to highlight this one page here, as you look through the document, you'll see too that there was an art project that was conducted, and we asked tenants to contribute both art and some thoughts on what living in TCHC means to them and how they would want that reflected in how we think about our strategy moving forward. So there's a number of them specifically in the document, but we just called this one out to share with you. This is from a tenant named Ashvi, and she described it in her own words as her depiction of what a thriving community looks like and how it feels to live within that community. So really appreciate the contributions from all of our tenants. So I'll move on to walking through the strategic plan. I know that board members have seen this in great detail already, so I'll move somewhat quickly, but also this is the first time I'm speaking about it publicly, so I'll try to highlight each one of these different objectives. We've come down to these 5, what we're calling main priorities. And you're going to see the first one around safe, healthy, and inclusive tenant communities, and the second one around cleanliness, maintenance, and accessibility of our buildings. I don't think it should be any surprise that both tenants and buildings feature prominently in our strategic plan. And so I'll talk a little bit more on the next couple of pages about those. And then the third one is around our housing portfolio and making sure that we are growing and expanding and addressing the mix of what that portfolio looks like. And then the last 2 are a little bit more inward looking. So making sure that we have a collaborative, diverse, and thriving workplace and supporting our team, and then making sure that we are also learning and leading and innovating within our sector and within our tools and technology as well. So that's the high level view of what the different priorities are going to be. I'll go on to the next one and just talk a little bit about each one of these. So the first one's around safe, healthy, and inclusive tenant communities. Here you will see objectives around ensuring that we are improving safety within our communities. And I can assure you that this is backed up by new investments in addressing safety concerns, as well as developments of plans to address safety issues within particular communities. The second one we've got is the strengthening partnerships on delivering social supports. This is another area where we're making significant investments under our new budget to add staff and to add resource funds to support programming within our communities, and not just in a standardized and one-size-fits-all approach across all of our different communities, but to respond to the categorization work that I know our board has supported and make sure that we're making these investments in the most critical neighborhoods and communities that require them. Third is empowering our tenants to lead and shape community initiatives. So we've got real investments and strategies being developed around what tenant engagement looks like. We're excited to move back to elected tenant reps, and there's resources under our new budget that are going to allow us to expand our supports in that space as well. And then listening to tenants to better understand their needs and tailoring our programs and the services we offer, and very much including an anti-Black racism lens and looking at that work. So the work to engage tenants is not ending. There's significant expansion of that work going forward, and there's commitments to that within the strategic plan and supported by investments in the budget. So let's go on to the next one. We'll talk about the buildings. So supporting safe, healthy, and inclusive tenant communities. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong screen. You've moved on. Yes, so improving the cleanliness, maintenance, and accessibility of our buildings. So number one, and it's a very simple statement, is to improve the condition of our buildings. It's much easier said than done. We know that we fall, despite the efforts and the investments that we make in our buildings every year, we're also faced with the fact that we see deterioration across our community and our buildings every year as well that we have to respond to. So it's a significant challenge to just maintain the conditions of our buildings, but that's not good enough. We certainly want to make sure that we're out there improving that as well. We want to increase our responsiveness to tenants through prompt action, clear communication, and respectful relationships. These are, as I look at these first two bullet points, I can tell you that I've visited over 50 communities across TCHC since I started, and these are the two things I hear the most, right? Please take care of the issues within our buildings. Please make sure they're well maintained, and please communicate effectively with us, right? Tenants want to know what we're doing, what we're up to, what projects are happening within their communities, how they might be affected. So very much taking both of those to heart within this priority. And then third, making our properties more welcoming and accessible. And we have investments in each of those areas to improve upon these going forward. I'll go to the third one. I hope I'm not moving too quickly. I know we're a little behind time. So the third one is now looking at our overall housing portfolio. And this harkens back to what I said earlier about understanding our place within the housing affordability crisis that the city is experiencing. So we're focused on a few things here. Number one, creating more mixed income communities where our tenants can thrive. We know that as we create new developments and new communities within our portfolio, we always strive to create a mixed income community. But that hasn't always been the case. We have a legacy of developments and communities that have been created, 80, 60, 40 years ago that didn't have that as their sort of underpinning or philosophy. And so we've got work to do to address the mix and the ratio within many of our existing communities. And then to do that, of course, you need to be growing, right? So that it comes hand in hand with the second bullet, which is making sure we secure all of the investments necessary to add additional units to the portfolio and very, very much to improve the state of good repair within our existing housing portfolio. We've got 2.75 years left on our major federal funding for state of good repair, and that's a significant area of focus for us going forward. It's absolutely critical that we get an extension of that federal funding to ensure that we can continue to invest in state of good repair and make sure that we're not put in a position of having to close any units. And then to collaborate with others to accelerate development and deliver more cost-effective housing. We've very much been invited to the table with the city here. The realignment that was announced towards the end of last year is positive for TCHC. It clarifies the role we have with respect to building on our own properties and clarifies that we will be expected to take on additional projects from time to time at the discretion of the city. We've got a fulsome discussion on that later on in the agenda today, but something that we're focused on going forward. And then a unique opportunity at the bottom of the page here, reducing the environmental impact of our housing portfolio. Once the TTC finishes with the electrification of their bus fleet, we will become the largest city-owned greenhouse gas emitter within Toronto. So I certainly expect that we will get deserved attention for that and that there will be opportunities to address those emissions at the same time as we're making some of our state of good repair investments. It's just good economics to try to do both simultaneously. Okay, so then the fourth category that I'm going to talk about is around our workforce and our workplace. So we continue to prioritize staff health, safety, and wellness. We've got work underway to address violence to our staff, for example, and some of the challenges that staff face on the front lines every day. We've got promoting a culture of collaboration where everyone feels valued, accepted, and a sense of belonging. Work continues sort of across the organization to address these issues and to make new investments to address them. equipping staff with knowledge and skills to achieve career potential and delivering on exceptional service. We are a people-driven business, not just in the door-to-door work that we do within our buildings, but everything that we do to support our frontline services every day as well. So we want to make sure that we have the best possible staff in place to be able to deliver on that. And then continuing to recruit, retain, and empower a diverse workforce that's skilled, accountable, and committed to enhancing service for our tenants. I said this at a recent management team meeting, and I'll reiterate it publicly here as well. DEI initiatives are under fire in different parts of the world right now, and I just want to publicly recommit our commitment to this. This is a very important piece of work for us. We as staff represent a very diverse group of tenants within the city, and it's critically important that we also have a diverse workforce that can provide those services. And then the last priority area I'm going to talk about TCHC's ability to lead, learn, and innovate. First one talks about raising our profile as a leader in housing and community building. We've been a little quieter for a number of years, and I think a good portion of that might have to do with some leadership instability and some uncertainty around TCHC's role. But much of that, I think, has been stabilized and clarified in the past couple of years. So very much reclaiming that space, and you've heard me talk about that with some of the work that we've done in the sector over this past year. Continuing to invest in our continuous improvement and how we innovate as an organization, and then making better use of technology to improve the way we deliver service. You're going to see a couple of reports on that on the agenda today, in fact. So that's the quickest version of the rundown of the objectives I can give you. And so let's talk a little bit about kind of where it goes from here. Just on the next page, what you'll hear from us next is that we're going to report back on this regularly, that we'll have a cadence of report back to the executive team and as well to the board, and that we will have a standardized approach to measuring our success against this strategic plan. So that work is underway now, just to develop out that cadence and that reporting, and you'll hear back from us very soon on what that's going to look like. And then the last page just talks about the fact that we need to be out there communicating all of this as well. It's great timing, right? Because we actually have the launch of the strategic plan and we have the implementation of the new city budget sort of simultaneously here. So we can talk about all of these very exciting things that we want to take on and tackle. And we can also talk about the fact that we're backing it up with the resources to do it and that we're making important new investments going forward. So there's plenty of communications planned around launching this plan and ensuring that staff and partners and tenants are all fully informed as to what it is that we're trying to do. Okay, I'm going to stop there. That's our presentation, and you have all of the documents around the strategic plan, and happy to take any questions.
Do any board members have any questions for Sean? Brian?
Getting my, I mean, I just really feel that the strat plan is really great. The 5 areas are important ones that we need to focus on. With the cities, as we all know, there's huge demand for a variety of types of housing, both for low and moderate income families that we need to address, and TCHC needs to play its role in that. And there's also the need for looking at the issue of supportive housing, because there are many individuals that are suffering with a variety of challenges that just housing isn't sufficient to respond to their needs. But I just wanted to focus on the strength of TCHC's affordable housing, because I think that for me is a critical area, because we have to realize that in this current environment, we can't expect government to keep providing funds for many demands that come on them, and that's from all 3 levels, basically. So I think in looking at, as we move forward, especially in our developments and that will be coming on stream, that we need to look at a supportive kind of market that we can make sure that we're trying to balance our budget as best we can, because if we can't do that, the other areas will not be able to be addressed as well. And so we need to focus a lot on having the mix in housing, even though there's huge demand for very deep subsidized housing. If we're going back to the city or other levels of government for money, we're going to have significant problems going forward. And I think it's very important for us to focus on trying to develop a very mixed housing, and as Sean was saying. So that's where I would hopefully try and communicate to both the broader public as well as council. We need to have sustainable development that goes forward and ensure that we can cover the costs so that we can address all the important needs that tenants have. Thank you.
Sean, do you have any comments for Brian or?
Yeah, so I mean, through the chair, really well said, Director Smith. We are somewhat caught in the center of some of these challenges, right? Because the fact that there is demonstrably very little capacity within the supportive housing space means that folks who struggle to live independently find other places to live, right? And sometimes that means street homelessness. Sometimes that means living in community housing like ours. Sometimes it means living with others, and there just isn't enough capacity to support individuals that are struggling. And traditionally that has been the responsibility, I guess, of the provincial government, but we know that those investments just haven't been sufficient. And so in fact the city is doing quite a lot of work just now to look at supportive housing more specifically and what role they can play and what supports they can provide. So we're involved in those conversations, and primarily around sharing our experience as a housing provider that operates within this space and with that reality. But there may be opportunities to look at how we can contribute, right? And what could be done within our buildings and with our community partners that we already partner with as well. So I think there are opportunities both for us to share our experience on the ground and what that currently looks like, as well as what could be done with the support of our buildings and our communities too.
I think it's important to focus on that with the city, because ultimately we can't, as an organization, solve that problem by ourselves, and it's important that we have a joint solution that we can put forward with the city to look at that issue beyond just our own capacity through filling any vacancies.
Are there any other comments? Nick?
Just a brief comment. Like this is like a really important document and process and really framework for how the organization is moving forward. And on the one hand, there's not a lot of discussion happening right now, but I just want to emphasize that's because this has been in the works for months and months with directors involved. Sean outlined sort of the stakeholder engagement, et cetera. And so I just want to emphasize this is being sort of heavily engaged with by the board, and obviously we're supportive of. We're gonna vote on it, obviously, but we're supportive of it, and this is a really comprehensive and important direction for the corporation over this next time period. So I just wouldn't, I don't think anyone. I just want to put it out there, like it's not a lack of discussion as it relates to lack of engagement and discussion and back and forth on this. It's really been months and months in the making.
Yes, and thanks
So
for
I don't
pointing that out.
actually have any questions. I just want to say that.
Yes, and that's important because we've been through this on several occasions and had several special board meetings as it related to just the plan. So I think that is important to point out. And I will say it's different than the last strat plan. So the board was very engaged and is very supportive. Are there any other comments?
Just to underscore what
Maybe.
Nick said, but also to Brian's point and Sean's response, for me in my head is holding this tension between wanting TCHC engaged with supportive housing, deeply affordable housing, while working towards mixed communities. And that tension is something we will be dealing with for the next 5 years or so. So looking forward, lots of work ahead of us in terms of how we manage that tension.
Any other comments or questions?
If I could just add before
yes.
you move on, I just want to acknowledge that Megan Nicholson and Kate Sargent are on the call with us today, and they've put probably thousands of hours of effort into development of the strategic plan. So just really appreciative of all the work that's gone into this. And to Nick's point, appreciative of the hundreds of comments and thoughts and ideas that have come from board members and others as we work through various iterations of this plan to get it to this point. So thank you to all.
So Brian's got 2 hands up. I don't know if he's trying to clap.
Yeah, I'm trying to clap.
Oh, trying to clap. Yay, okay.
I just want to thank the staff because it's a huge amount of work, all the meetings, all the work with tenants, you know, just is fantastic amount of time that goes into these things. So just want to congratulate everybody who was involved in it.
And that's important. Sean, I just wanted to ask about the timing of the communication and when you go to the city and, you know, how that's done. And if you make like town hall presentations on the strat plan, or is it just something that we put on our website? How is that communications rolling out?
I wonder if Megan wants to speak to some of the details of the plan there. I know that we have work plans in the works for all of those.
It just wasn't clear, you know, sort of when you're doing this and how you're doing it.
Good morning, everyone. Through the chair, I'm happy to add some additional details regarding how we'll be communicating. So with today's approval, which I hope we will be receiving momentarily, we will immediately kick off our communications plan to share this great news and build excitement and momentum and awareness amongst our staff group. So that will start happening as soon as tomorrow and into next week. And then also very importantly, we do want to circle back to all of our key stakeholder groups to let them know that the plan has been approved, invite them to take a closer look and see the details and continue to engage in discussion. With respect to tenant communications, of course, that's an extremely important part of this work. And so in addition to preparing a plain language version that's a little bit shorter, the document that you're seeing on it today in front of you, you'll notice it's quite lengthy. We've prepared a slightly shortened version that really kind of gets to the point in terms of what the priorities are and the objectives, as well as the short and longer term outcomes that everyone can expect to see as a result of this work over the next 5 years. We will be translating that plan into our top 5 languages that are represented across our tenant households. And then, of course, really importantly, going back to the TCATS and the Tenant Advisory Committee in order to talk about this in more detail. We've heard very clearly from tenants. They don't just want to be consulted and engaged as we get the work going. It's really important to continue the conversation, and in particular for us to be able to demonstrate our accountability to the plan and how we're measuring our success over the next 5 years. So that's all contemplated as part of the communication strategy that essentially kicks off first thing tomorrow.
Okay, but is it just like, does Sean do town halls? Is it just via email, via social media? Like, I don't.
Yeah, let me speak a little bit more to that. Thank you for the follow-up question. So, of course, when it comes to tenants, the philosophy, or sorry, staff rather, the philosophy is that it is critically important that all staff are very knowledgeable and understanding about what's in the plan. So we have already, in anticipation of approval today, we had a meeting with the extended leadership team of directors and the ELT together to start getting everybody at the leadership level socialized to what the plan entails and to start thinking about how we will go about successfully implementing the plan. On March the 4th, we have a leadership exchange. So that's a broader group of people leaders at TCHC. So that's everybody who is a people leader. We're coming together again to make sure that there's a deep understanding of the plan, an opportunity for staff to ask Sean and the full ELT questions about the plan, should they have any, and for us to start the next phase of work, which is around annual planning for 2025 and making sure that we have very strong work plans for how we will achieve some of our goals for the 2025 year. And really then it cascades from there in terms of making sure that there's continuous communication and engagement with staff. I think one of the most important things that we know going forward is it's important to regularly talk about the strategic plan. And it's a really important part of our leadership responsibilities to make sure that at every opportunity, leaders are connecting the dots for their staff, helping them to see the ways in which their day-to-day work is directly contributing to our success in achieving the strategic plan.
Okay. And I appreciate the personal communication as opposed to just putting it out there for and expecting people to read it. They really need to understand it. And my other question is the board committed to ensuring that our strat plan fit within the city's strategic plans. And I'm just wondering how you communicate with our shareholder. Sean, are you holding meetings? How are you doing this?
So to the chair, I'll say we've actually had the city involved throughout. So
yes,
multiple civil servants and officials at the city have been contributing to it. Now that it's complete, there's a circle back process that I'm going to support to make sure that they're fully aware and we can highlight where things are aligned. And if there's any challenges or issues identified, we'll certainly work those out. But our primary point of contact is with the housing services manager, which is the housing secretariat function at the City of Toronto, and that'll be the group that we work with to make sure we have alignment.
Perfect. And I found the expression plain language version. I just question the tone. I think you may want to consider different words than plain language. Abbreviated, something. Anyway, I would just ask that you consider those words in the tone that you're setting there. And I just wanted to be clear with the board, you're coming back to the board with, specific actions that you're taking to ensure that we are achieving these priorities.
Absolutely. I mean, you're going to be hearing about this regularly now, right?
Okay.
Of how our various activities and strategies ladder up to the strategic plan. So yes, absolutely, we're doing that.
Okay. And the board will have input into how you report and what KPIs you're measuring. So
if I may jump in to the chair, we plan to bring a report back in the spring to the board outlining our proposed approach for identifying the performance measures, KPIs, reporting timelines, etc. That will all come back to the board for your input and approval.
Okay. And I think the board would like to have input into
Absolutely.
how you report to us and what you're measuring here. So I appreciate that. Are there any other questions or comments? I would like to say again, thank you, because I know that there was a lot of work that's been put into this by a number of stakeholders, particularly management. So I would like to say thank you. And the board is very committed to this, as Nick said, and want to ensure that this is successful and that we make good progress on the priorities that have been set, and that this isn't something that we just document and put on the shelf, that we for the next 5 years commit to making progress on the strat plan, and that we use it as a guide to make decisions as to what, TCHC does for the next 5 years at least. So are there any other comments?
I just want to
So-
say thanks to the staff and that we support it
Oh,
100%.
Sorry. Great. Thank you, Uba. And
You're welcome.
I'm very proud to say, can I ask for a motion to approve the strat plan for 2025 to 2029? Benita and Marcel, seconder, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So we will move on to item number 12, and that's the TCHC Procurement and Transformation Plan. And I'm going to turn this over to Lily for the presentation.
Thank you, Chair Emery. Good morning, board members and members of the public. So this is one of the key action items from the TCHC's Financial Sustainability Plan by EY in 2023, also aligned with the city's long-term fiscal plan. City has gone through very similar procurement transformation journey in the past few years. The Budget Committee also directed the city ABCs to achieve cost efficiencies and savings to offset the ongoing budget pressures. In 2024, I'm happy to share with the board that TCHC has achieved over $1 million in various procurement efficiencies, especially through leveraging buying groups by partnering with the city, Supply Ontario, and also a few other group purchasing organizations. Through this work, we will also continue to advance TCHC's focus on social procurement program on supply chain diversity and workforce development, specifically in areas of supplier and community capacity building, such as provide targeted business development support to improve the competitiveness of smaller or medium-sized diverse suppliers, equity deserving groups when participating in TCHC's procurement competitions. Also encourage and help small businesses and social purpose enterprises to become certified as diverse suppliers, which may include our tenants or tenant-led firms, or the companies that provide employment opportunities to our tenants and the communities. The highlights of the procurement plan and implementation roadmap include 2 key recommendations. The first recommendation centering around operating model recommendation based on the maturity assessment. Through the work with EY, we have developed the 10 overarching future state recommendations across people, process, technology, and governance dimensions, with detailed action plans and a recommendation to support the implementation of each. The second recommendation is around category management and also strategic sourcing value creation opportunities. We have identified 11 opportunities across the short, medium, and long term based on the spend analysis. So the return on investment is roughly 4.5 times in a dollar range of between 16 million to 35 million annual benefits once fully implemented. We have already kicked off the implementation work in mid-January on the following 5 work streams: strategy and governance, people and operating model, process, technology, and also value creation. So I will now turn it over to, sorry about that, Hanan Barakat, our Senior Procurement Director, to walk the board through the highlights of the presentation. And we will be happy to take any questions afterwards.
Thank you very much, Lily. Can everyone see the slide deck? I'm sharing it, so I'm just confirming.
Yep.
Yes. Perfect. I may not be able to see everyone as I'm going through it, so kindly feel free to interrupt, ask questions as we go through for purposes of time, or if you'd like to hold your questions till the end, that's okay with me as well. Just let me know if there's any problems with the sharing as I go through, please. Thank you. The agenda on this deck is going to cover the procurement assessment and the procurement transformation plan report overview that has been already completed in 2024, the decision history, the procurement transformation plan implementation overview, and the critical success factors. So starting off with the assessment and the procurement transformation report overview, this section has been completed. The background here is that TCHC engaged Ernst & Young back in March or roughly around that timeframe of 2024, as Lily mentioned. They came in with particular scope of work objectives, such as the transformational operational review, in which they conducted a current state maturity assessment and gap analysis of TCHC's procurement services overall. They also worked with stakeholders to define future state vision and provide recommendations and an implementation plan. And the second scope was realignment, streamlining, and optimizing assessment, which conducted spend analysis, identified certain opportunities that were sequenced as part of the implementation roadmap, and as Lily mentioned, resulted into 5 work streams to develop category strategies that would generate some savings. They also worked closely to conduct market sounding, i.e. conducted sessions with vendors, tenants, internal staff, our board members, and provided procurement performance management recommendations. The outputs listed on the other side here of the screen, recommendations included developing 10 overarching future state recommendations, and as Lily reiterated earlier, they are across people, process, technology, and governance dimensions. They have detailed action plans on each and sub-recommendations. Partly also included an implementation roadmap that was also taken to the BIFAC committee back in November of last year, in which we detailed the implementation roadmap to conduct all these different activities. Value creation opportunities were identified across 11 sourcing activities, and as also Lily reiterated, roughly between $16 to $35 million in annual benefits. And then lastly, the implementation roadmap was sequenced based on opportunities, ease of implementation, and the savings potentials for execution. So the decision history, sorry, if there's any questions, feel free to interrupt me. I can't see it.
Hannah-Ann, I just want to remind you that we did receive this, so we have read it.
Sure.
So if you want to do the highlights.
Yes, absolutely.
And presume, and then go to questions. I think we can presume that the board members took the time to read this.
Yes, absolutely. So
thank you.
For sure. Thank you, Adele. So on that note, it's been approved back in July 17th by BIFAC, and then subsequently implementation roadmap in November. The procurement transformation plan summary of findings, again, are listed for everybody's reference, which to Adele's point has been reviewed by the BIFAC and board committee members. Going too fast. The maturity assessment indicated that there were a lot of gaps in TCHC's procurement services overall. In a nutshell, again, resulting from all different areas that were discussed, procurement strategy requires revamping from a policy perspective, vendor management perspective. The people and organization skills need reassessing, as well as just ensuring that there's consistency, clear roles and responsibilities across the board. From a process perspective, again, just focusing on standardizing various aspects of our procurement services, and for the benefit of our tenants, our suppliers, and our staff members to ensure understanding and clarity of what those processes are. Governance and policy is also very top of mind, so we just want to make sure that there is ongoing standardized governance for all the processes, and again, clarity of what those are. And last but not least, technology and systems, making sure that the systems we have in place are actually supportive of that work. The implications of current state practices in case we do not move forward. Now, again, my understanding is this is for information. However, again, certainly taking questions is more than welcome. So in the event we don't move forward and continue with current practices, there's going to be continued increased risk to financial, operational, reputational, and compliance at TCHC, reduced possibilities of value for money, meaning, again, with ongoing complications with supply chain, there's going to be less and less support on gaining advantages or volume of services and financial savings, delays and inefficiencies overall with regards to the lengthy processes that are currently in place, which require streamlining, and likewise limited vendor participation due to lack of training or lack of understanding on how to follow a particular procurement process. The summary of opportunity identification and prioritization is.
Can I just, sorry to interrupt. Hanan, do you mind just given Adele's comments about, our board chair's comments about folks having prepared and read through this. I wonder if maybe you just want to hit, I'm noticing maybe page 11 and 14 contain some of the key items that we could maybe just highlight, and then maybe we could open it up to questions. Is that okay if we do that?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Okay, so summary of recommendations. Again, to Lily's point earlier, there is five streams here that we're going to focus on: strategy and governance. So communicating and implementing the procurement strategy, streamlining the award approval process, establishing governance committees, and enhancing the existing policy. People and operating model will focus on establishing a center-led procurement operating model. And on that note, just briefly, we do have a new project director of procurement transformation who just joined us, and he's on today's call. His name is Jagjit, and we would like to welcome him to TCHC. We also are going to define and document the roles and responsibilities on board and continue with the training to ensure people's understanding. On the process side, standardize the procurement processes, implement recommended actions to increase vendor participation, which has been dialogued several times. Technology, again, as I mentioned, we will look at revamping or upscaling any of our existing technology to match the needs of the business and the needs of the governance aspect. And then there's the value creation piece, which is the focus of where the savings will come from. And we're working very closely with EY to confirm based on data and data cleansing what those opportunities will be and how they will be tackled. And last but not least, these would be the various different metrics that we would be reviewing and presenting on to ensure that we are successful in this process. At this point, I'm just going to stop there and then ask if there's any questions.
Are there any questions for Hanan or Lily? I can't see everyone's tile, so I would just ask if you have your hand up, if you just speak up.
It's Brian. I just have a question.
Hi, Brian.
Will this services also be provided to the seniors housing?
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions?
Adele, it's Parthi.
Parthi? Yes, thank you.
First of all, thank you for this presentation. Very much appreciated. And when the public speaks to us about budgets and they talk to us about efficiencies, this is kind of the things that they're looking for us to create and find, and this speaks to that directly. So appreciate the work behind this. I have a question on, I know there's mention of social procurement as a strategy. Is a policy coming forward, and when can we expect it, and what's the thinking around it right now broadly?
Sean, did you want me to answer? Or Lily?
Yeah, go ahead, Hanan. You've been intimately involved.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Sorry, I can't see everyone. So my understanding, and thank you for the question, is that there will be a social procurement governance framework set as part of the procurement policy overall governance, and that we are targeting to bring that framework over to BIFAC this quarter. We're working very feverishly along with Sean and Lily to get this in place. So that's at a high level, if that addresses the question.
Yeah, no, that is helpful. And within the policy, what's the thinking around opportunities for tenant-involved organizations?
So the policy will speak to social procurement governance and framework and the opportunities for TCHC to increase the volume of business that we have where we can support tenant vendors, tenant engagement, social enterprises. The details of that and how it will be completed will be subsequently placed into a separate protocol with a working group in place to realize those various different aspects, following through from the general procurement public sector guidelines and governance model.
Great. And will there be a process to
Yes.
to have due diligence on the quality of work and
Yes.
organization? Okay.
Yes, it will be hopefully presented at several points this year back to BIFAC and the board for consideration and approval. Yeah.
Great. Good to hear
May
that.
I add?
Sorry. Sean?
Sorry, do you mind if I just quickly add? So just to, this is a really exciting piece of work and we can't wait to bring it forward to the board. I think we're going to try and target it for the next board meeting. But very specifically to your question about opportunities for tenant involvement, generally speaking, social procurement will target community building and equity deserving groups, and that's absolutely great. We have the unique ability to target tenant-owned business and tenant-employing businesses as well, which I would say is an important subsector of the prior group. So that really gives us a real unique opportunity to target the kinds of organizations that can truly help our tenants and therefore help our entire organization. So not trying to let the cat out of the bag too much just now. Just we're going to bring forward something that speaks exactly to that and how we can increase our investments in that area.
Exactly. Thank you, Sean and Erica. And Anne, sorry. And, it dovetails very nicely with our strategic plan, which we just approved, especially priorities in 1 and 5. So great combination and great start. Thank you.
Nick?
Thank you. So this is, I think, great work and important and really speaks to using capital wisely that we're entrusted with and delivering on sort of work in an efficient, impactful way. I'm almost most interested in the page on reporting. Sorry, here it is. Well, it's 143 in my deck, but I'm not sure what slide it actually is. Presentation. So the one with the proposed procurement performance management metrics. That's a mouthful. Is that being recommended for approval as part of this package, or is that sort of a sample to be discussed later, or what have you? Just because I've got some thoughts on some of the things I'd like to see reported, whether through BIFAC or otherwise, but I'm not sure if this is the appropriate venue to discuss that now, or this is part of just the overall plan that will be visited in detail later.
Through the chair,
Can I ask
Nick,
someone to put up that page so we all see what Nick is referring to?
Yeah, I'll do that now. Thank you.
Thank
So,
you. And
Hanan
just
is
Nick,
putting
for your reference, this is just for presentation. It's for information, not approval. So I don't know if that impacts your questions.
Well, I guess like in general, the same question, like, is this the proposed plan forward, or is this sort of, the steps we're going to do in the future that will be discussed in the future, if you know what I mean?
Okay, through the chair, thanks Nick for that question. So this is a sample procurement management matrix EY has proposed. Some we are in the process of validating and then to assess which ones are actually most relevant to our operations.
Okay.
We will be bringing, once we go through the stages and when identify and define the metrics as well as the data, the definition as well as the data collection mechanism, we will bring that back to BIFAC for approval. But specifically, this docket is for information at this point of time.
Great. Because I think some great ideas in here, but certainly, obviously, as the stakeholder receiving it, would like to have a discussion on which metrics we're going to focus on.
Okay, but I understand, Nick, that BIFAC will have that opportunity,
Yes.
and then we'll be approving.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I just want to confirm this wasn't part of this. We weren't sort of approving the whole package and all the embedded stuff at once.
No, my understanding is BIFAC will have ample opportunity to have input.
That is correct. Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions? My only comment is about I think this is critical work to TCHC. So I thank you very much for all the effort that's been put into this, and I hope it works well with EY as a partner to help you with this. I think the oversight, the vendor oversight, we've heard that from the AG and we've heard that from tenants. I think that that's a really important component to this. So I hope that there is training that's involved in this, because this is across the board. Everybody is dealing with procurement. So I think when it comes to value for money and how that's measured and how it's assessed is really important, and how we engage vendors. I appreciate that, TCHC, may not be the client of choice. There are challenges to servicing TCHC. But I think there needs to be training on how we engage new vendors, whether it's we break up the groups that we're asking them to serve so that we can engage maybe, medium-sized vendors. But I do hope that training is an important component of this, because it impacts everyone at TCHC.
And through the chair, yes, absolutely. It's being considered as part of the project plan, and we have already engaged both our learning and development as well as our Stratcoms partners within TCHC to support us with this work. Yes.
Okay, and I do hope that you will update BIFAC as it relates to how the training is progressing. Can I just ask a favor, that if you're there as board members, that we can see your face? Dara says there's only six of us showing now. I just don't want to lose quorum, so I never. Okay, Parthy, I'm never sure when people turn off their camera if it means that they've left or if they're just listening. So thank you. If you can keep your cameras on, I think that'll be a big help for Dara. So are there any other comments or questions as it relates to this work that Hanan and Lily have led? Okay, hearing none, can I have a motion to receive? Parthy, Benita, seconder, thank you. All in favor? Thank you.
Aye.
And again, Hanan, thank you for all the work. And I know that Nick and BIFAC will be very interested to hear as you progress with this.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to item number 13 now, and it's the building repair capital budget reallocation threshold review. And we have a deputant on this. So I will ask if Miguel is here.
Yep, Miguel is here.
Okay, perfect.
All right. I would like to share I don't know if I can share it. I'm gonna do my best. 1 second, please. Can you hold my time, please? I'm having technical problems here. 1 second, please.
Sorry, we seem to have lost a deputant.
Oh, I thought he was trying to share. Do we want to move on to board questions, or how do we, can somebody reach out to Miguel?
I'm sure governance staff are doing that right now. We can either hold the item until he can rejoin, move on to board questions, move on to another item and come back to this one.
Can I ask if any board members have any questions as it relates to this item? Okay, I did. So for me, the risk of, reducing the thresholds could delay projects. I didn't see that as a strong argument. I appreciate that the city follows different thresholds, as well as other agencies are following the city rules. And, a number of those agencies in the city have large projects. We're not unique in that area. So I didn't see if they can plan accordingly and bring this to council or their boards. I didn't see how TCHC couldn't do the same. And I think it does require planning and good tracking to budget and good forecasting. And I think that, as long as I've been on the board, there have been, serious issues with that, particularly with FM, and that's why this came forward. I can see that, we are getting somewhat better in 2024, but, this request was made a year ago. And a year ago, it was made because we received a report after the fact for a significant sum of money that the board was being asked to approve. And that's happened on several occasions. And even at that time, it was said that it would never happen again, and it's happened since. So you have to appreciate the context with which this request for information was made. And there have been serious issues with, the demand spending and the over budget amounts to the tune of, close to $100 million for one line. So I just wanted you to understand the context, why this was asked for and why we wanted it to be reviewed. We do budget by project. We do it in development. So to say, well, we're different and we can't compare apples and oranges, we can. We do project budgeting for development. And I would question whether we should be doing it by project in our FM for our planned work. I appreciate that our demand work, you can't do it by project, and they're small projects, and we have our threshold issue, but we can, and I would like to consider that maybe that going forward, budgeting for FM is changed so that the planned work does come forward as projects. And when we look at the shuttered buildings, and I think it would be helpful that the board does receive information on these projects. So I'm fine with leaving the threshold as it is now. I would like the motion, you've made recommendations, and I would like them to be specified. You talk about, having monthly reviews at ELT, and that Sean is now going to have approval of changes in threshold amounts or reallocations at 2.5 million. I'd like that to be clear in the motion, not just referenced, but specified. And the other thing I would like to do is, I really do think, we're at FM for our planned budget, we're still doing these straight line. So we're not tracking properly. And I think there needs to be a review of our budgeting processes, our policies, our controls. And then I think we should revisit this. But I think when it comes to the next budgeting cycle, and I'm looking at you, Lily, because this is your report, I do think that we have to look at this. And then I would like this to be revisited. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done here.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chair, for that comment. So in regards to your comment about aligning TCHC's budget as development, the forecasting tracking with the city's guidelines, and also similar to the other city ABCs. We're trying to do some internal assessment, especially at the speed of the system restrictions and constraints. It is our goal. The ideal state is to report and track, especially for the planned budget at the project level. The demand will have to come up with a different mechanism with a program level or the envelope to be able to report back to the board on a timely basis. In regards to the interim measure we have put in place as an executive team to have that level of due diligence and rigor in our planning and reporting back to Sean as our CEO and then subsequently to the board. With a more frequent reporting at the monthly level, we will be able to identify some of the early warning signals if there are cases we have to either reallocate or between the envelope or even adjust some the project budget at the project level, the job level. At least will give us a more frequency and also better opportunity to make that change. So you will not be seeing a big reallocation request either at the end of the quarter, the end of the year, and then in prior years you have seen retroactive approvals. That's our internal process measure. We're trying to mitigate that risk. In terms of revisiting this threshold in the next budget cycle, definitely that's on our work plan. And we will be also implementing the operating and also capital budget policy, which currently TCHC's policies are either outdated or in some cases it's actually a void. So once again, those are on our work plan and our to-do list, and we will be happy to report back to BIFAC or the board in the subsequent reporting cycles to get you guidance and direction.
Okay, and I really appreciate that Lily. So I would like the motion to be amended. I don't think that this is, and I don't know what the right number is. I have no idea what the right number is, and I'm presuming that management will recommend the appropriate number. But I didn't think that the arguments against change were very strong, and I think that this needs to still be looked at. So I'd like to amend the motion, as Lily has said, that she's doing this for 2026 budgeting cycle. And I think the interim measures, I would like them specified in the motion that ELT will look at these every month and that Sean has authority to approve if it's over 2.5 million.
Sorry, to be real, sorry. Yes, and we can amend that. I'm not sure that we're going to be able to get that amendment in the moment. We may need to hold the matter down.
Okay.
I mean, the interim measure that's proposed, if I can just clarify, doesn't it adjust Sean's authority in the financial control bylaw, because that would require council approval, but it provides a mechanism through which Sean, in the exercise of his authority to approve reallocations between $2.5 million and $5 million, would ensure that ELT, the full ELT, is aligned with that decision before exercising his authority.
Yes, and I appreciate that additional oversight. I know it's not a change to the bylaw, but I see it as an additional internal oversight. And I would like, so Miguel's here. So if Miguel wants to do his deputation, and then Dara, I know that I'm asking you to do this on the fly. So if we need to, defer the actual approval until we've drafted a motion, that would be great. So Miguel, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Yes, thank you so much. I apologize, I have some computer issues this morning. So we are speaking on item number 13 of the agenda. I would like to share with you a few slides for your knowledge and understanding. This one right here. You can see it. Right there is, I think, if you can see it, no. Well, here is a picture of 220 Oaks somewhere here, the project that was approved back in 2016 at the TCHC board. So today I learned two things. That the TCHC approves the capital budget on the basis of budget envelopes. The City of Toronto, in contrast, approves its capital budget on the basis of project budgets. Another word I learned today, reallocations, is a magic word. Over $5 million needs board approval, and anything under $5 million just needs to be reported. Look, I want to speak about a legacy project that has been, not fully funded since the year 2016, when residents of my community of 220 Oak, they were consulted on the issue of how to become an efficient building, and then we applied at the time for the City of Toronto Tower Renewal Project, and the board allocated in 2019 $30 million for the project. Since then, only 10% of the project has been delivered so far. Thank you for that. However, there is other issues that deals with contract management. This is a project, again, that was evaluated at $30 million pre-pandemic days, and we don't know how much is the cost today. So my girlfriend, who happens to be property management with Oak Street Co-op, said to me, have you got a chance to see the building condition assessment of 220 Oak? I said, no, I haven't got a chance to see it. So I made a freedom of information. This is the most expensive freedom of information I ever made to the TCHC, a building condition assessment of the year 2021. And it says a lot of things that is in accordance to what the CEO has said. The 69% of the buildings are in critical condition. When I read the BCA, it says a lot of things about the basement condition. That really send me chills through my body when I hear about what happened Surfside condominiums in United States, in Florida. You know, when the building collapsed because the slabs in the basement were damaged. And the same story here at 220 Oak. We have an indoor pool, and the slabs and inside the pool are damaged. So I don't know how you guys are planning to invest in the renovation when the basement really requires a huge investment of money. Number two, I would appreciate if TCHC in the future, when you consult with your tenants, please provide this important document that it cost me $15 to give as a freedom of information. The building condition assessment, for those who don't know, is an X-ray vision of the building from top to bottom, a complete study of the architectural condition, the pipes, the electrical, etc., etc. God, we need to replace the pipe very soon. We need to repair also the electrical system. We don't want to have a repeat of what happened in Parliament Street about a few years ago when the whole building electrical system burned out. So please, if you have any questions about this freedom information I made, it is important that we allocate money for 220 Oak Street as soon as possible under your carbon, sorry, what's the word here? Carbon capital budget. I know that you are allocating on 2 properties, but perhaps you see if you can make some accommodations for 220 Oak. since the year 2016, you promised to help us. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Miguel. Dara, do we want to defer this or?
I'm happy to share where I'm at in terms of the amendment to the motion and get input from the board as to whether it's captured the proposed amendment. In relation to the reporting back on the outcome of the comparative analysis, I understood the change to make to impose an expectation or a requirement that the report back on that analysis would occur prior to submitting our 2026 budget proposals to the city. And as far as the monthly reviews of budget reallocations at executive leadership team was concerned, I've added this language through which the executive leadership's team's concordance will be secured as a condition of the president and CEO's approval of a budget envelope reallocations between 2.5 and $5 million. Does that capture the proposed changes?
Can I just read the one about the budgeting? Go back.
So the only language that I have added is this phrase.
Or back on the outcome of that analysis. What analysis?
The comparative analysis of our budget reallocation thresholds to the reallocation threshold to the city and its ABCs.
Okay, it's actually more than that. What I understood Lily to say was that she's actually doing budgeting policy review and process review for before 2026. Did I misunderstand, Lily?
No, Chair, you understood correctly. The comparative analysis has already been completed and included in this current report.
Yeah, so I guess it's more about the policy and how we report, like FM reporting, and I don't know what Lily will come up with, but as an example that the plan is actually done by project as opposed to just by envelope. You know, so it's the policies and the procedures. I'll leave Lily to give you the proper language, but and then I think once we've done that, then I think it's worth revisiting. So the first, in my opinion, I'm only supporting that this stay the same temporarily until the additional work has been done, not that we're affirming that these are the right numbers. Because and I'm only one vote, but in my opinion, the arguments that were presented to say that these should be left as they are not strong. And there needs to be more work done for TCHC and then determine whether they're appropriate.
So I've added to the first recommendation then, I've added affirm subject to the following recommendations so that it's clear that the affirmation of the existing thresholds is subject to what follows. And I've amended recommendation 2 so that it requires not just a report back on the comparative analysis, but report back on a corresponding budget policy review prior to submitting the 2026 budget proposal to the city.
Okay, and that certainly encompasses my understanding, but Lily?
Thank you. That actually,
you know what you have planned.
Yeah, thank you. That accurately captures it for the policy and the process review prior to submit our 2026 budget to the city. So make sure we have that alignment.
Okay, and they may stay at 5 million once that work has been done. But okay. I would like to understand how other agencies in the city can do this, but TCHC doesn't seem to think that they can without delaying. And that's just not clear to me. And I hope you understand the context with which this question was asked. I asked the question, and it was in response to what I consider to be a serious issue as it related to reporting to the board. So is everybody comfortable with the changes to the motion? Okay, so could I have someone move as amended? Brian, thank you. Can I have a seconder? Nick, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. And I do appreciate the work to be done. Now we'll move on to item number 14. And I pulled that. So I don't know if Melanie's here.
Hi.
Hi, Melanie, thank you. And it's because you don't come to the board very often. I had a question, and it was more about the rent bank update and how that's moving forward, because I do think that that's a great opportunity for TCHC to possibly recoup some of the receivables, particularly the older ones.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, through the chair, it's very exciting work. And I'm actually going to be providing a comprehensive overview of all we've been doing with the rent bank in my next biannual report that's coming in April. But I can tell you, we're really seeing a positive impact. At the end of my report, you'll see all the money we recovered from the Toronto rent bank. And that was only half a year, and we were around $158,000. So that was even before they made it mandatory eligible $5,000. So it's exciting. And we're really seeing that it's cutting repayment agreements in half and not even needing repayment agreements in a lot of cases. So I will be providing an analysis and an overview of that to the board in my next biannual report.
Okay, I know I was jumping the gun, but you don't come very often. So,
yeah, no.
So I really appreciate that. And is it still, it's just through OACH that you can work through the rent bank? Is it? Or is that
yes.
something TCHC can do directly?
No, so through the chair right now, the way it works is that TCHC finishes its process and then it comes to the OACH. Part of the application for the rent bank is that we have to complete an auditing exercise with the tenants, and we do a lot of intense work with them to get the application through. I'm not sure if they will look later on about expanding it to TCHC and other providers, but right now it's just sitting with OACH at this point.
Okay, great. You and Nadia presented a report, I guess a few months ago, and I thought it was a very balanced report and how OACH works with the TSCs. And I just wondered how, like what progress is being made, and is it a collaborative process to work through the challenges you presented in that report?
So through the chair, yes, it is a collaborative approach, and we've included those in my 2025 work plan, some of those issues that were brought forward to address them directly. So our plan is to try to incorporate those into the processes and work through them. We meet with the TSCs monthly at our case conferences. So we have lots of avenues where we can collaborate, get that feedback, and put processes in place to ensure we're fixing those issues that have been identified.
Great, thank you. And I just wondered if you ever set a goal for the LRAs being breached and reducing that. And I think you made comments about rent bank. That's why I raised it, because you said it is cutting them in half, because I think the reason that they're breached is because they're so long. So I was wondering if that could be something with rent bank that you could incorporate in your goals.
Through the chair, definitely. I actually was pulling the numbers in anticipation it might be brought up today. And historically, we've always hovered around a 30% breach rate. But when I looked at it for 2024, it was down a little bit to 20%. And I think that's probably directly attributed to the rent bank and the fact that repayment agreements were literally being cut in half from 10 years to 5 years. So it makes it a
Perfect.
lot more of a positive story for the tenant and much more attainable to be able to keep up with those agreements when they're shortened that much.
Okay, and when I heard about rent bank, I thought it was going to have a very positive impact. So I'm glad to hear that. So I know I'm jumping the gun for your April report, and anyway, look forward to hearing more information about it. So thank you, Melanie. And if anybody else had any questions or comments, it's just Melanie, she only comes twice a year, so I didn't want to wait till April. Anyway, thank you. So can I have a motion to approve the OACH 2024 work plan performance appraisal? Vanita, thank you. And can I have a seconder? Nick, thank you. All in favor? Perfect. It's been approved, and thank you, Melanie.
Thank you.
And I will move on to item 15A. And we have a deputant on this, Catherine.
Yes, hello everyone again. Okay, so I wanted to make a few comments on this exciting project, the closeout report for Alexander Park. The work done to date is truly a remarkable transformation, not just for the neighborhood and our corporate reputation, but also for the tenants who live there. Early on in this project, as a member of the board, I had the opportunity to visit the site. When we went to the site, directors learned that the high school students living in this community did extremely well in school, often getting above average marks, graduating high school, and going on to pursue college and university degrees. Now, this is not often something we hear about youth living in social housing. So no one could quite put their finger on why this was the case, but it was worth exploring further to see what the secret sauce might have been attributable to and whether it could be replicated elsewhere. I don't know that we ever pursued it, so I'm throwing it out there. This Revite project garnered significant media attention and demonstrates with the right partners and funding, Toronto Community Housing is able to transform communities and improve the quality of life for its tenants. I did want to address something specific. On page 2, one of the most important and perhaps challenging parts of this project was the zero displacement policy, which means everyone in the community could stay in the community throughout the revitalization. On phase 1A, there was a demolition of 44 Toronto Housing owned rental townhouse units. And then there was the construction of 40 replacement TCH owned rent geared to income townhouses. In phase B, similarly, there was a demolition of 37 TCH owned rental townhouse units and construction of 21 replacement TCH owned RGI townhouses. So if we combine that, page 3 indicates there was a total of 81 townhouses demolished. And on page 4, it indicates Toronto Housing replaced 61 TCH owned RGI replacement townhouse units. Now, the language used in this report is very specific. This suggests that only RGI, rent geared to income, townhouse units were replaced. It is not clear if this means the 20 townhouse units demolished and not replaced were perhaps market rent tenants. So at a time, when access to affordable housing is job one and so critical, it would be helpful to clarify what happened to the families that lived in the 20 TCH owned demolished townhouse units that were not replaced. And I'm hoping the board will get clarification on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Jessica?
Through the chair, thank you very much for the question. It's a really great one. I think I have Michael Lamb with me, the Senior Development Director for this project for Alex Park. But maybe I'll start. I want to just bring to the attention that this is a multi-phase project, so there are multi-phases. So although all units are not replaced in phase 1, there's a commitment across all phases to replace those units. And maybe I'll have Michael speak directly to the affordability levels in the units as they're replaced.
Thank you, Jessica. Excellent question, Catherine. And through the chair, say that the townhouses that were demolished were all RGI units. The overall number of units that are involved in this revite are 410 in total, and they are comprised of some mix of RGI and market. The market units were primarily located in the TCHC apartment building at 20 Vinali, but all of the townhouses are RGI. And further to your question, what happened to those 20 people? Because this was early days, as you might recall, we were concerned about how to actually, how would you say, make zero displacement work. And so we offered we made an offer to the community in general for voluntary displacement offsite, because it so happened that 150 Dan Leckie was completing at around the same time. So we had approximately, I believe it's 15 families that are to this day at Dan Leckie, and maybe one other person who's not there, but in any case, and they are actually given priority return to the next building that is actually being completed now and will be occupying this time next year, actually. Yeah, the short version is we had a number of people moving off site. We also took advantage of a few vacant units, and that kind of makes up the difference. To Jessica's earlier point, because of the layout of the overall site plan in its future state, you don't actually get a neat one-to-one sort of, in this phase we take down 81 and we're going to replace 81. There is a little bit of mixing and matching, and so that is kind of what happened at that spot. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm happy to hear that outcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments for, Nick? Yes, Michael or Jessica?
Yeah, so one, I think this is a good and important process to do and maintain as developments are completed, have a bit of a post-mortem. These are obviously huge financial investments. They're disruptive, but we have huge aspirations and objectives to accomplish, and we obviously hope to do a lot more of this going forward. So I think a retrospective is always important. I appreciate the lessons learned section in the report as well. So we're thinking about how we can continue to sort of improve on process. And just from my perspective, I'd be curious, sort of, Jess, what from your side, what was the most positive surprise from a development community perspective, and then on the flip side of that, what was the biggest lesson learned that we should be thinking about as we look at future projects, given sort of our ambitious plans in that regard going forward?
Through the chair, what a great question. Thank you, Director. So I'm going to start with I think the big surprises, and Michael probably can add to this as well, given that he's been on this project probably since pretty close to the beginning. So, but I think some of the biggest, I wouldn't say surprises because they were planned elements, but biggest successes are really those common spaces that are shared between the TCHC buildings that are operated by Atkinson Co-op and the market buildings. Those spaces are really special urban spaces, I think, within the community, and have created these really, I think, wonderful moments in time. And we really look forward to seeing more of those happening in the next phases. I think we've also started to see over time the sort of entry points into the community starting to be more connected, and really starting to see those benefits that I think were part of the original vision of the master plan. But there's a life and that was always in the community that's now much more apparent and much more shared with others, which I think is really exciting. And those are kind of some of the big lessons or pieces that we've seen through the revitalization. I mean, this is phase one of two, and two is really the big phase. And I think that's actually what takes me to the second point of my thoughts on lessons learned is really, I think you can see in this report, there's a very small amount of upfront construction work happening in TCHC's units. The impacts of those decisions obviously are, we are incurring the largest costs of replacement later in future phases. So deferring, although it might have been beneficial in phase one to have smaller units for replacement of TCHC, we will see the impacts of this in the costs of building out phase two, where we have the majority of the units. I think in retrospect, as we look forward, I think addressing our replacement requirements early and having those dealt with early in our business plans so that we can move forward quickly, I think will be a really important part. Zero displacement, obviously a big piece here, and a commitment to tenants that's really important, but also has very significant impacts on the timing by which these projects are delivered. So I think going forward, very careful considerations of the full impacts of zero displacement, which include, having people living in and adjacent to a construction site for a prolonged period of time. So I think those are some of the lessons learned that are maybe that we will take forward and relook at as we plan future projects.
Appreciate that, and obviously we want to be a learning, growing organization, so being reflective, and also sometimes when we make sort of hard pronouncements that are very specific, it has ramifications, and so thinking about things more on almost like a guidelines basis or weighing the impacts sort of across the whole community is important. Appreciate that, and look forward to the next one.
There's 3 more coming, so.
Are there any other questions or comments for Jessica or Michael? I always hope that the numbers, the dollars that are attached to scholarships, and I say this every time, they always seem so small to me, Jessica. 80,000 here, 32K there. Anyway, if there's anything we can do to increase those numbers, that would be wonderful. I think it's very important to our tenants, and anyway, they always seem small to me because these are huge organizations that we're dealing with. So
I appreciate that.
Whatever you can do to increase those numbers would be great. Are there any other comments or questions? So can I have a motion to, we have to receive this? Benita, Nick, seconder, thank you. All in favor? Perfect. Thank you very much. And it is, because you do phase projects, Jessica, it's great when you pull it all together and it comes across as one project. I think there's a lot of value in that.
Yep.
So thank you.
Yeah, no, our pleasure, and it's actually a great pleasure for the teams to be able to see these reports as they're coming forward and working on them collaboratively together. So we appreciate your comments, and we also will look to improve each report as it comes forward and add additional details. So if there's anything after the fact that occurs to people, please reach out, because they are works in progress, and we look forward to incorporating additional comments.
Well, my understanding is Michael spent years on this, so it should be celebrated.
It should be. It should be.
So we will move on to item 15B, which is the vendor award and for ground maintenance and snow clearing, and we have a deputant for that. So is Mr. McPherson?
Hi, how are you?
Hi, fine, thanks. Welcome.
Pardon me?
Welcome.
Welcome, thank you. This submission to the Board of Toronto Community Housing is to draw the attention to the issues surrounding the evaluation process and awards under the tender RFQ 24116, annual grounds maintenance and snow clearing. As you may or may not be aware, this RFQ has 3 stages, it's a 3-stage process. of which each stage submitted by the proponent had to be passed before they move on to the next stage of evaluation. If the proponent failed the stage, then you don't move to the next stage. Okay. Then so they're, in essence, if you fail stage one, you're disqualified from moving forward and being awarded any work. Stage one involved the proponent's acknowledgement, agreement to bond, and the list of subcontractor. Stage two involved the evaluation that had to be successfully passed before the before they could open up the stage three, which involves your prices. Stage two required you to receive a minimum score of 70 out of 100. And only if you got 70 out of 100 would they open your stage three. And of course, stage three involved the completing of the price form. As stated earlier, I'm concerned that the evaluation process of stage two may have been compromised. After the tender closed, I was contacted by one of the proponents, informed me that two other proponents and he or they had failed the stage two evaluation. The proponent was told all of these areas, was told all the areas he had failed. The proponent who contacted me identified the 3 specific items out of the 5 in stage two where they failed and why. The failures are as follows. The proponent was to provide 2 projects which they'd completed in the past and answer 8 questions. The proponent told me that he failed this as he'd only answered 4 of the 8 questions. The value of work part of that, the past 5 years, he did complete. The second part of it was the proponent was required to make an organizational chart as it pertained to the work. He supplied an organizational chart, as he told me, for his entire company. Okay, he'd also required in this section resumes of the foreman doing the work. The third one was the proponent was to provide an equipment list. The proponent failed in this section. They did not list the specified equipment required. It was a mandatory equipment list in certain areas. And then you had the number 4 of them was he didn't tell me about number 4, but it's to do with the delivery of the service. And number 5 was the scheduling, which all count for 40 points on those ones. But the first 3 alone were 60 points. The 3 sections where the proponent failed were worth, again, 60 points before he even proceeded to the stage 3. The proponent was given specific detail by an inside person concerning where and how they had failed. After receiving this information, the proponent stated to me that they called TCHC back to complain. 2 days later, he contacted me again, and he informed me that he and the other 2 proponents who had failed had been reevaluated and given a pass. Nowhere in this tender document is there any mechanism for reevaluation or rectification in stage 2. The inside person to change the result of the evaluation, did the inside person change the result of the evaluation of stage 2? Would the evaluation team have to document the proponents if they were reevaluated, explaining as to why they were reevaluated, even though there is no process for companies to be reevaluated at this point in time? And nowhere in the contract does it state that if you fail stage 2, you get a second chance. Okay. As you're about to award a $72,700,000 contract, and under the shadow of possibility of an impropriety in the evaluation process in stage 2, rated criteria, and proponents being awarded contracts who may or may not have passed stage 2 rated criteria and may have been reevaluated and passed, would it not be prudent for the board of directors or an independent group of people with no affiliation to the evaluation process review all 11 proponents to keep it of stage 2 rated criteria and compare the content, the scores to confirm, verify accuracy of the scores given or rescore, not knowing current scores to make sure it was a fair and equal among all proponents before the contract is awarded.
Sir,
As a final note here, right? I've done lots of these for the TCHC, these 3-stage tenders, and in the last 10 years, they have never, during the tender process, even after it's closed and awarded, told me if I pass or fail. The only way I knew if I pass is if I was the low bid. Then it's like, okay, I must have passed the evaluation, but they would never give out that information to me ever. Okay, so for him to get it during the evaluation process when it's still being done, okay, it's not even closed and awarded yet. It was done before it even was presented to you in the board.
Okay.
He knew what group he was getting.
Sir,
Okay.
I think your 5 minutes is up.
Is it 5 minutes? Okay,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
I think
That's why there's a lot more information and details. That's why I was trying to shorten as much as possible. Thank you.
Okay, so your 5 minutes is up. So thank you very much. And,
Yep.
and I'm actually going to ask management to respond to this. So Sean, did you want to speak to this or direct someone else
Sure,
to?
I will, if you want me to.
No, I think she's directing that to me. I'm also
Management.
Sean. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I was thinking of you as Mr. McPherson. So
Yeah.
I'm talking to the CEO. I'm sorry.
No, so to the chair, I'll provide a response. So absolutely, we're as management aware of the allegations. They were provided to us on January 15th. So I've seen the detailed list of allegations. I do want to share with the board that obviously we take these sort of allegations very seriously. It would absolutely not be correct for anyone to be communicating with anyone of the proponents during the procurement process. So what we have done is internally we've investigated this process, including looking into all of the documentation surrounding this procurement process, and we have strict requirements around how all of that documentation is kept. I can share with board members that there was no pre-qualification of any kind. There was no reevaluation of any proponents during this process, and our evaluation panel was made up of subject matter experts within this work. And all of our decisions ultimately were made on the basis of the lowest submitted bid. And then, so based on our review that we've conducted here, we disagree with the allegations that have been made by the complainant, and we've actually sent correspondence in that regard to the complainant back on January 20th. Now, having said that, we certainly invite any further information that might corroborate that, and we've asked for that information on a couple of occasions now. Still happy to receive anything further if there's additional concerns that they want to bring forward. But we've asked for additional information and not received any response to that to this point. So based on that, we've conducted an internal investigation into this and don't agree with the allegations that are coming forward.
Are there any other questions or comments? You're hearing none, my understanding, Sean, from what you've said.
Yeah, the point is they keep on talking about the lowest bid, but it's not the lowest bid until they've passed stage 2.
Sorry,
if they didn't pass stage 2, they can't open up stage 3, which is the pricing. Okay,
yes.
And if there's nothing wrong with the system, you've asked me for the person's name and affiliation. I understand that, but let's make it clear. If there's nothing wrong with it, then why do you need the name?
Okay, sir, I think you're going to deal with management on this. But my understanding from our
They keep
CEO,
going back to the same thing, that the process was fine and never dealt with the issue that's in regards to step 2, the rated criteria.
Okay, I think that there'll be discussions offline between you and management. Clearly they're engaging with you. My understanding from our CEO is that there's no reason these concerns don't impact the awarding of the contract. That's the case, Mr. Baird.
Even though on November 18th, before the
Yeah.
evaluations were even done, this person had all this information. You didn't find anything wrong with the process?
I think management has responded.
Okay.
And I'll just share, we're always happy to meet with vendor proponents to provide feedback on the process. So if there's further concerns, we're happy to meet and discuss those as well.
We filled hundreds of them. We know the process works. It just, someone had so much information here that we thought you'd be very concerned about it.
Okay, but my understanding is based
Okay.
on the work that's been done by management, there is no reason why the board cannot approve this contract award at this time.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. So can I, Mr. Baird, so I don't say Sean, you're comfortable with us moving forward with this motion?
To the chair, yes, we are.
Perfect. Okay, so we will support management. And can I ask for a motion to approve the contract award or contracts award? Vanita, thank you. And Marcel, thank you very much for seconding. All in favor? Thank you. And unless there's no other business, my understanding was that the deputation for 16 was pulled. So if there's no other business for the public session, could I have a motion to adjourn? Vanita, thank you very much. And seconder, Marcel, thank you. All in favor. And thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.